Welcome back, gamers. I've still been extremely busy since launch, so I haven't really had a chance to discuss this in a formal guide, but I wanted to post another stream highlight for you all where I clear up the discourse and misinformation surrounding Assassination Rogue, as well as your Pre-Bis, 1.4 versus 1.8 in main hand, and reforging stats and the priority for them so that you guys aren't as confused and don't feel as lost. I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember, this is on my Twitch channel, so catch me on my stream at twitch.tv/Sqwurrelly, and I'll see you on the next one. This is the one take, guys. What's up, YouTube? Just wanted to make a quick video for you guys really quick, talking about the DPS differences for your pre-raid bis, as well as clearing up some different topics that people are confused about, because a lot of people are coming from different places of experience and knowledge on different subjects for the rogue class currently. So I just want to clear some stuff up for you guys so you guys know what's going on. The first thing that I want to talk about is your full raid pre-bis. This is what full raid pre-bis looks like. A lot of people have gotten things confused about the DPS differences between these different class optimizations that we can be making. A lot of people in the Rogue Discord were talking about how Vicious 2-piece is a DPS increase. It is not the DPS increase that you thought it was. The DPS increase comes from the shoulders and legs, not from the gloves. I just want to show you guys at a baseline our stat weights really quick so you guys have a better understanding of why we are choosing the Vicious 2 set over raw PvE gear, and also why we specifically chose the pants over the gloves. So firstly, our Agi stat and its stat weight is 2.58, okay, versus our secondary stats, which come nowhere near as close, okay? When we look at the Agi difference between Liar's hand wraps and the sticky fingers, it's 205 Agi, okay? And then the Agi that we gain is less than 20 from Vicious, okay? So these are our DPS differences here already, all right? When we look at the Agi gain between the 346 Pre-Bis pants before Vicious 2 set, it's 262 versus 321. We are gaining a lot more Agi from using the pants with this setup rather than with the glove setup. So that's the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about. I want you guys to go ahead and check this out. This is your full pre-raid bis. This is the best simmed enchants and best gem setup, best enchants, best professions. So we're using tailoring and engineering here. This is the DPS that you're looking at for a 3-minute fight. Another important thing that I want to mention is that you guys will notice that my agility is green here. That bonus from the 2 set is not simming properly on the sim itself. So you need to physically add 70 agility by clicking on this plus minus and putting in 70 agility. We're going to open up some lock boxes for a gamer in my guild. He said that it's very important that we open these lock boxes to show rogues how to be proper rogues. We're going to open these for him. This is how you be a proper rogue. This is how you get into raids as a rogue. You open lock boxes for your officers. This is how you do it. This is it. This is how you secure your raid spot. This is how you get to DPS at all. Okay. Back to the sim. All right. So this is the primary sim. A lot of people will say that they are noticing in my videos as well as on my stream that I'm using a 1.4 in my main hand versus a 1.8. And a lot of people ask me the reason for that. I want to show you guys the DPS difference between these two things. You guys will notice that on here, I am losing with the 1.4 in my main hand about 30 DPS by comparison on a 3-minute fight. I'll show you guys the settings so you guys can see. A 3-minute fight with my 1.4 in my main hand versus my 1.8 in my main hand. Now I want to show you guys the results of this, okay? This is our total DPS from attacks, okay? I want you guys to just pay attention to that for me, all right? This is our total DPS from attacks. And this is our DPS with instant deadly poison procs, okay? I want to read what deadly poison does to for you in-game so you guys have a better understanding of how deadly poison works. I think he's done with the lockboxes now. So I'll read deadly poison. Coats a weapon with poison that lasts 1 hour. Each strike has a 50% chance of poisoning an enemy for nature damage over 12 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times on a single target. Once stacked to 5 times, each application of deadly poison also causes the poison on the rogue's other weapon to apply. So what we're talking about here when we say this is that, Pig Rudy says, hi YouTube. So say hi to Pig Rudy for me in the comments. What this means is that when we use a 1.4 in our main hand with deadly poison, we are making it so that we benefit from our hit chance being higher and more likely to use our main hand weapons to land attacks than our offhand. If you are not 27% hit cap, you will likely lose auto attacks with your offhand weapon versus your main hand weapon, meaning that deadly poison more often than not does better in your main hand on a 1.4 dagger because it applies more often. Now, if we go back to the sim, we can see that our instant deadly poison here is doing 5.2k DPS and in total doing 7.7k DPS. Okay, this is with the 1.4. I'll go back just so you guys can see 1.4 versus 1.8. All right. Now on the 1.8, when we go to the results, we can see that our instant deadly is only doing 3573. Okay. And now a lot of people will ask the argument, okay, Sqwurrelly, well, if that's the case, then why is this one doing 30 more DPS? That's because of the differential that we get from the extra damage bonus gained from steel benders being in the main hand for not only auto attack swings and backstab damage. Okay. But if we look at that damage, this loss here, 3,500 DPS versus, I'm stuttering all over the place, 3,500 DPS versus, with this one, 5,200 DPS with a 1.4 in main hand, okay? We are losing a substantial amount of instant deadly proc damage. So, when we look at the backstab damage, it's 3397 here, and it's 3226 here, okay? The argument that a lot of people are making is that it's not a viable swap to be using a 1.4 in your main hand until 35% because of the damage that you would lose from auto attack swings. If we look at the amount of damage that instant deadly is doing on its own, it is 5,200 DPS with 1.4 in main hand. Our auto attacks in total are doing 6,326. So the argument that people are making is that you should use a 1.8 in main hand for the entire fight so that you can net 30 DPS increase while losing all of this instant deadly damage, right? 3573 versus 5201 for the sake of a single reset on your auto attack swings and a 30 DPS plus. A lot of people are doing the math wrong when it comes to this subject. Most people are doing the math wrong when it comes to this subject, because when people are simming this, they are not talking about the DPS that you're losing when you swap from 1.4 to 1.8 in main hand for the entire fight from the start of the fight. They are only pitting the backstab damage bonus that you gain at 35% versus the poison damage loss. And in that argument, backstab does more damage in a 3-minute fight and longer than your poison procs do. But that begs the question, is it more DPS than a single reset on your auto attack swings to that just swap your 1.4 weapon with your 1.8 weapon at 38% as your main hand weapon so that you can get the best of both worlds? I think the basic math here of looking at 3,500 versus 5,200 gives you your answer. And the DPS differential between this backstab being 3,200 versus 1.8's being 3,397 makes a very clear and obvious answer as to what you should be doing. So for anyone who's saying that you only swap weapons when there's downtime or that you should use a 1.8 in your main hand always, you're wrong. Please understand that 1.4 till 35% is objectively better then 1.8 from the start of the fight, or 1.4 from the start of the fight till the end of the fight. If you were doing a fight that lasts longer than 2 minutes, you, without a shadow of a doubt, should start with a 1.4 in your main hand and a 1.8 in your offhand, and then at 35%, I should say, I'm sorry, swap your 1.8 to your main hand and your 1.4 to your offhand to benefit from the extra damage that you would gain from backstab. I promise you, it is a DPS increase. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the DPS difference between Unsolvable Riddle and Tia's Grace. There was an argument being made by a lot of people that Unsolvable Riddle was worse than Tia's Grace because Tia's Grace has consistent agility. This just blatantly isn't true. If we look here, with Tia's Grace, we are doing 32,000 DPS, 32,611 DPS. If we look at Unsolvable Riddle, we are doing 33,162 DPS. This is a massive DPS increase, and this is on a 3-minute fight. With longer fights, we found out that even then, it is still much better. So if we go to 240, we can see here, and we'll test these. And while those are going, we will look at something else. And we will sim those out, and we'll look at the DPS difference as the fight time goes on longer, okay? Now let's look at Spine Render. Spine Render is the DPS equivalence of basically the number one piece that was told to us as being the best for our spec and class. But when we look at the numbers here, Kickback versus Spine Render does more DPS by about 5 DPS due to the socket bonus. If you guys can look at the raw agi on this item here, this is 40 agi plus 10, which is 75 agi. This is a extra 50 agi on top of the 75, making this 125 agi versus Spine Render's 107 agi, and its secondary stats being hit and crit being way less optimal for us, if I could find the tab, way less optimal for us than haste and crit, because we can reforge other stats to get us to a closer number. In fact, often in most scenarios, unless you were in perfect Pre-Bis, do you not have the option to get to almost exactly 1332 hit, which means that Spine Render is a 80,000 on average, unless you're on a low pop server where there's less people farming, to be a massive gold sink unless you're farming it yourself, or time sink for that matter, versus Kickback, which is just maybe 10,000 gold on any given server. I think I built mine for 3,000, but if you don't have engineering, you can buy it for about 8 or 9. And then it's a 5 DPS increase over this. We can sim these out against each other. Now let's go back to the sim iteration that we were talking about. This is Unsolvable Riddle on a 4-minute fight versus Tia's Grace on a 4-minute fight. Even then, still a DPS increase. And this is unoptimal timing. If we were to go to 5 minutes, this would spike up even higher because the extra proc that we're getting from cooldowns coming off. This is unoptimal cooldown timeage, and I did this on purpose to show you guys the effectiveness of this trinket and how much it scales over the other. Chat, I'm not doing that right now. I'm specifically recording a YouTube video. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, right? I want to show you guys, just so you guys can see the DPS difference between these two. This is specifically Kickback versus Spine Render. And the main thing that I want to focus on with you guys here is that a really important thing that the Rogue community is experiencing right now is that there is a lot of indefinites going on in the Rogue community. There's a lot of new math. We are in a different patch cycle than original Kata. A lot of the numbers are changed, and there is a ton of things that are still in development for what Rogues are figuring out. The main thing that I want you guys to focus on as players is to start thinking critically about the decisions that are being made. Really understand the core integral aspects of your class so that you understand the things that are being told to you and whether or not they are actually DPS increases or losses. The biggest one being the argument that I made for Vicious Pants versus Vicious Gloves. If the whole argument for using the Vicious 2 set is that we gain this 70 bonus agi. Well, then why is it that as rogues, we're choosing to pick the lower agi increase on the gloves when we have a 346 blue and 359 gloves already, right? It seems like a really obvious answer, but a lot of people would have you believing, because of this one sim iteration that they found where Vicious gloves with Vicious shoulders is way better than the Vicious pants, and that the stat loss is way higher on the Vicious pants than it is with the Vicious gloves. It's something that you guys as players need to understand the value of, and understand that none of this math is perfect, and a lot of the things that people are telling you currently are completely up for discussion. So when we look at this difference between these two, I think this has Tias. Yeah, here, give me just one moment. We'll resim this. This is a really important thing that you guys need to understand, is that you need to really focus on the critical decision making that comes with the things that you're being told, right? Because a lot of people who are not authorities and don't speak from a place of authority will try to tell you that they have the best understanding of what they're doing. But if we look at, just gear pieces, this is how much gear that we have to choose from, right? And then you add reforging on top of it, and enchants and gems. There is so many iterations that they are almost considered infinite by the amount of possibilities that we have access to with this class. Cataclysm offers up a completely new spectrum of min-maxing in the form of reforging, which means that we have so many more options to choose from that it becomes an insane myriad of different branches that you can branch off into to find different sim iterations that net DPS increases. So when someone tells you something is definite, I beg everyone to just keep an air of skepticism with everything that they are doing. So just please, please, please do yourself a favor and be skeptical about everything that you're hearing until definitive math has been proven by someone who comes from a place of authority in the community. With that being said, let's look at the DPS difference. We're looking at 3345 and then 33142. So spine render for 80,000 gold or a kickback for 9. You guys tell me what you would rather choose. Of course, you still want to have a thrown weapon for fights in which you're AoEing on. I understand that. A lot of people have been asking me, well, Sqwurrelly, if I'm using a gun, then how am I supposed to fan of knives? Swap it. Swap it for the fight that you fan of knives on. That's it. That's the answer. You guys can do it. You can make a macro for it. In fact, I have macros in my Discord, and I have macros for all of these things. If you guys are looking for macros that are based around pickpocketing, if you guys need weapon swapping macros to make sure that you equip your kickback 5,000 when you're, on single target fights, and then your spine render when you're fan of knivesing, right? Or even min-maxing it to the point in which when you're not fan of knivesing on boss fights, but you are single targeting, I have macros for all of it. So make sure you guys check all that out. I just wanted to show you guys this really quick, and then the last thing that I want to show you is how to reforge. So there's been a lot of discussion around the differences between reforging and people not trusting the math related to reforging. I want to prove to you guys that the math that you're seeing on the screen is something that you can trust, and also to not sweat the math too specifically, because I'm going to show you 2 different iterations of simming so that you guys can see, and I'll save this one really quick, so that you guys can see. So this is the official sim iteration for Reforge Lite from the Rogue Discord, okay? This is the official, all right? Now, if I look at my own custom one, right? This is my own custom one, okay? And when we hit calculate here, you guys will see there's no difference, okay? Well, if we hit calculate, and it's showing the same, then that means that no reforges need to be done. Now, I have different stat weights here. My hit rating is at 3, my crit is at 0.88, my haste is at 1.1, my expertise is at 0, my mastery is at 1.23, my hit rating is at melee hit cap 481 with weight after cap 2.01, spell hit cap at 1332 with 0.7 after, and blah, 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 and so on and so forth, right? Well, if I go back to Warstries, version of the sim iteration, and I hit calculate, which is a much more simplistic version of it,
even though I have so many more additives to fine tune those things, no change. See, the thing that a lot of people misunderstand about hit rating is, and all these stat weights are, is that I don't, as a assassination rogue, use expertise, but so long as I have things in place for the stat weights, such as haste being 0.9, mastery being 1.5, hit being 1.4, and there's always an option to reforge those items off, well then of course my gear is never going to have expertise on YouTube. And of course I'm never going to have to worry about spell hit cap because I just have at least spell hit cap at 1332, right? So don't sweat this math too much. Go ahead and pause this video, plug this into your Reforge Lite so that you guys have this. Use this one over mine because mine is more complicated. I did mine in a very specific way because I like having it that way. I like the very fine-tuning nature of it. If you guys want the fine-tuning one, go ahead and check mine out as well. You guys can pause here and throw this one up if you want. But, you know, don't sweat this too much. This math is very trustworthy. I can guarantee you. Reforge Lite is a very, very good calculator, and you guys really have nothing to worry about. So something to pay attention to, and, you know, I just wanted to show you guys the DPS differences of a few different things. I wanted to confirm the Vicious 2-piece. I wanted to disprove Unsolvable Riddle. I wanted to talk about 1.4 versus 1.8 and why you guys should be using both all the time. And then lastly, I wanted to show you guys about reforging. These are the biggest questions that I have been asked in my Discord almost every single day since release, and this is something that I wanted to just help everyone out with in case that you were worried about it. So if you guys liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. And with that being said, make sure you guys check out my Twitch channel, because this is coming from my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Sqwurrelly. There will definitely be a link in the description below, as well as a link to my Discord. If you guys want to ask me any questions personally, please feel free to definitely join the Discord and bug me whenever you would like to. And I'll see you next time. Peace.